All right, welcome back to Rise to Liberty podcast. I hope everyone enjoyed the new opening. Put a lot of work into that, so I thought it was pretty badass. But today's guest is Jose Galison of the No Way Jose podcast. Real quick, before we get into that, though, I just want to tell everyone to go hop over to NaduShaveCo.com. Use promo code RISE15, get 15% off. It's a veteran-owned, family-operated business, and you just can't go wrong. I mean, this is a company that actually cares about their customers, providing a high-quality product. The days of big shave are over, so head on over to NaduShaveCo.com, promo code RISE15. Let them know who sent you and get 15% off your first order. Absolutely.
The Doe Shave Co., the way to go.
Right, right. Absolutely. Without a doubt. I mean, and they have the balls to sponsor both of us.
Hey, real quick. I don't know if it's just me and I can't see the live chat in my setup, but it seems like you're coming in a little hot. I feel like I should have said something before we started, but I didn't notice it until just now. So,
how's that?
It still seems hot to me. You can ask the chat. I mean, they'll be able to tell better than I can, but it comes off pretty hot. Keep on talking.
Let's see. Chat, let me know how that is working for you.
Down. There you go. That's not well.
All right. How's that sound?
All right,
better?
Well, yeah, better.
All right. Okay. Well, with that, let's just jump straight into it. So first and foremost, I mean, this is the first time you've been on my show. So do you kind of want to just give a rundown who you are, and like what your show's about, kind of how you got into all of this?
Yeah, Jose Galison, podcaster. I guess I dabble in research. I get this a lot from like a lot of the researcher types. They shit on me for not being a researcher, and it's like, well, I'm not really, but I have dabbled, so I can see why people can see that. At some point, I would like to dig more into research, but I have dabbled a little bit. I have particularly in this topic is probably where I've dabbled the most in actually getting involved in doing some real work involved to it and some actual research. I mean, in a certain sense, I guess all of us podcasters are researchers. We're just, I don't know, finding stuff we find interesting and sharing it with the world. So that's really all I'm doing. And it seems like I found a semi-decent following along the way. I've had, I guess, semi-decent, what you could call success in the realm of podcasting. You know, I'm by no means fucking like killing it in the like six-figuring it up in podcasting or anything. I haven't made it rich, but I'm doing okay, I guess, in the context of what podcasting is. So I've had a fun time. But I kind of started out, I cut my teeth on theory. Libertarian theory is kind of what I started out a lot on. Probably first couple hundred episodes were probably almost exclusively were like this No Way Jose was a theory podcast. And then at some point, really the major turning point was when I covered the Oklahoma City bombing. I think that's when I really just, I don't know, something about that drove my interest. I don't know. I think it's maybe just a sign of the times. A lot going on. I just lost interest in the theory side of things, which I'm kind of ADD and obsessive like that, so I'm sure maybe I'll come back to it at some point. But you know, I kind of dropped it. But I leave it open to come back to it. That's the beautiful nature of having a podcast that's called something like No Way Jose. Like I haven't tied myself to anything. I can talk about whatever the hell I want. But as of right now, this show is pretty much a parapolitical podcast. I do a daily live stream, kind of like a morning show thing. It's at 10 a.m. Eastern. I mean, I say daily, but it's like Monday through Friday. You know, weekends are kind of like bonuses. We do those quite frequently. That's me and my buddy Austin, who is more of a researcher, less of a podcaster. I'm more of a podcaster, less of a researcher. Together, we make a podcaster researcher together. So he's their like kind of the research guy, but me and him both host those morning dumps, so we'll kind of alternate or do them together depending on who's available. But that's just a hangout thing, so that's just kind of a hanging out. I call it a dump because it's kind of like a research dump of sorts, but it's also like a morning show. So we kind of dig through the latest and then also kind of maybe some old research. And then we have a weekly live show we do, and then we have our solo work, which is kind of like stuff like I've been having you on lately to cover the false memory syndrome. We have a whole series on that. I've kind of made a knack of doing a lot of series, and a lot of those are with Austin, like we mentioned earlier. I've done like a Finders series with him, and we've done quite a few. We did Jonestown, so. But me and him have done a lot of work together. We've kind of been a little bit of a team. We have our own separate platforms, but we do essentially 2 shows together that go on both on our platforms. But we have our own solo work as well. But he's more of the produce solo research work, where I do more like I'm more of the podcaster, interviews, discussions, stuff of those like. So you can kind of get your fill of both of us. From both of our platforms he's over on the Underclass podcast, but 2 out of 3 of his shows feature on my channel as well. So, and vice versa with my stuff. So that's kind of who I am. I guess I didn't really say at all who I am particularly. I guess if for anyone who actually gives a shit about that, I don't know. I'm a dad, husband. I have 2 teenage girls. Well, 1 teenage girl, one's about to be a teenager somewhat soon. I was active duty military for 11 years, and I got out during the time while I was a podcaster. So it was around that like 2020 time frame. What was it? 2021, 2022? I forget the exact year. But either way, roughly in that time frame is when I got out. That was when I was podcasting. So I don't know. I guess those are kind of significant things to know about me. Not really much special about me. I did get really sucked into the Oklahoma City bombing. It's kind of what most people know me before, I guess. Not most people. I say that like as if a bunch of people know me, but I don't know. That would be probably one of the things I'm best known for. I've done a lot of coverage in the Oklahoma City bombing, but in general, I do a lot of talking on parapolitical stuff. Like we're getting ready to go on. We were talking before we started getting ready to go on Jake Shields, and we're going to talk about. We're going to do almost like a 2-episode series of sorts, I think, starting with Oklahoma City bombing and ending with, like, the first one, like Oklahoma City bombing, the second one ending with, like, Finders and Dutroux type stuff. And so kind of weaving from one to the other, obviously the larger narrative being Gladio. We've gone, we went on Tripoli show recently, kind of laid out the theory of everything with Gladio. So, I don't know, that's just kind of our wheelhouse, just a parapolitical... funness. So I guess parapolitical is just a cleaned up way of saying conspiracy, really. But I feel like it leads with this flavor too of like we usually try to come from here's the sources type angle. Like it doesn't mean I'm gonna be perfect about every little thing. We are running a show to some extent. There will be a little bit of InfoWars vibe to it, but for the most part, we do try to come from a place of truth, and not truth TM like a truth. Oh, here's this document. Here's this. Oh, you gave some pushback. Here's this other document. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Just that kind of perspective. So that's who I am. That's what I'm about. I don't know. Yeah, that's a really. I don't have a whole lot to say for myself aside from that. But I don't know. We have fun on our show. We hang out. We cover fun stuff. So good place for current events and past events, I would think. So, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. I've totally made. The morning dump part of my daily routine at this point. So it's just I'm not a big fan of a lot of morning shows, and now I finally found one that I like with you guys. And Austin's been on my show a couple of times now to talk about the Vegas shooting, and our first episode we kind of just touched on lightly touched on a bunch of different topics and stuff. So I kind of actually have like the same arc as you, like obviously with the name, like Rise to Liberty, like I kind of started with libertarian stuff and started 2021 or 22. I don't know. I started around the same time as Kyle Matovic, and him and I like launched like within maybe like a week or two of each other. And it's just kind of interesting. I started because I saw like this attack on free speech and stuff. And I was like, even if the market is oversaturated, I don't really care. We should just flood the market with as much free speech as possible. And then I started realizing just like how lame libertarianism is. The ideas are great. The people suck. And so I'm just way more interested in things that I've been interested long before libertarianism.
If we're gonna do origins, I mean, it's been a while since I've done that one, and that's a deep lore. That's kind of fun. I guess kind of what started me podcasting was I actually when I first started, it was peak COVID, I guess, peak lockdowns. Like when we were at the top, like I was reeling, I was losing my mind, I was freaking the fuck out. Like everything that I had read about was coming true. I was not prepared in my life. I was still active duty military. Like I was not ready for the boogaloo to go down. That's kind of the way I saw
right.
things. And so one thing that we were doing is this before we saw the huge tech censorship. Facebook used to be a really great tool, especially for community building, for groups. And we took that and we applied that concept, and we're trying to apply like network concepts, and we created what we called the Liberty Movement. And this was an idea, and we also had this concept, just kind of I guess rooted a little bit in like agorist type concepts. We had this idea that we thought like the political is what kind of really caused the issue with when it comes to libertarians generally, or liberty-minded people. And so that was kind of like, hey, this is just a group for you guys to hang out, whatever. This doesn't explicitly vote for this guy, vote for that guy, whatever. You guys talk about it. But essentially the idea was just Facebook groups. And from there was almost like a network concept to it. Like we had different groups that were for different concepts, and then groups that were more local. Like so, and then we even had all the way down to countries. We had country ones. We had it like very well organized down to like countries, states. And so the idea was we were just trying to create it so people had like real world networks to kind of be able to meet up and stuff like that. And that just kind of ended up, honestly, I thought we're really making some good headway, and a lot of cool things were happening. We had a couple of local meetups where I was at, and we kind of made some local chapters, and other places did as well. But it did kind of fall apart. I really blame the Facebook censorship for that, honestly. Facebook became completely untenable, and it happened so quickly. It was like we weren't able to really, because we did try to like shift to like MeWe and other shit like that. But anyways, the podcast was actually born out of that. It was part of a kind of a promotional like idea to kind of promote it, and also kind of promote the concept, because I was also like, I was doing my own show to kind of like promote it, the idea. But really what I was trying to do was feature other people's shows, especially startup shows or people with similar concepts, and feature them on the channel, and then almost have like a daily content, and then just be different shows. And I had a few different shows that I was doing. Anyways, long story short, that became untenable. The other show I kind of found I was liking podcasting, but it was born completely out of promotional thing. It was kind of dragging, kicking and screaming, because like other admins in the group were like, hey, this is totally something you should do. You would be good at it. You're good about you like to talk about these things. And the rest is kind of history. And then over time, it like what was called the Liberty Movement, which is the original YouTube channel, slowly. And then I had No Way Jose, which was a show that featured on the Liberty Movement. Eventually, No Way Jose took off, and Liberty Movement just kind of fizzled out. So, but you can blame Zuckerberg for that one, that we don't have this illustrious, beautiful, thriving Liberty Movement thingamajig. So it was actually kind of popping a little bit for a minute. We had a lot of stuff happening, but it shit got rough. But that was I don't know why I felt like sharing that. It just was recalled some old lore that I was like, I had almost forgotten entirely about that ever happening.
Right. No, and it's weird. I feel like I have almost the exact same arc, because I mean, I was doing I'm actually still county chair of my local county LP. It ended up disbanding, and then I came in, started the whole thing, built it from the ground up, and did that for like 2.5 years. And it's just done now. I mean, and I don't know, nobody really gives a shit, And so it started off really strong. People were coming out, doing things. And then people want you to be doing something, but you have to have people to do things, and we couldn't get people to come out. And so it was like this like weird vicious circle, not being able to get people to come out more than an hour once a month. And it's like, okay, well, this just isn't worth it. There's better ways to spread liberty. And as far as the podcast thing goes, like I'm with you. I enjoy podcasting, but I enjoy the ideas. It's just every time I cover anything like specifically libertarian, viewership just tanks every time. And it's like, oh, well, I mean, I'm interested in more things than just that. And actually, with your show, with your Oklahoma City, I guess, your series, I don't know why it was so hard for me to figure out that word, but your Oklahoma series, I had actually never thought of Oklahoma City like in that way at all. I mean, I've been a, I guess, conspiracy theorist since maybe junior high, you know? Like that's when I started really getting into it. That's when I found Alex Jones. And so pretty much since then, you know, I've covered or been into all sorts of topics, but I had never thought of Oklahoma City until I saw your show. And then I just like binge watched all of your episodes and then just consumed everything that I could possibly get my hands on. So to kind of move things along, where did you find Oklahoma City? Like where did that come along?
Well, I mean, I think I was like kind of sort of a little bit of awareness. I mean, I really didn't have any sort of real, I guess, awareness of the Oklahoma City bombing before really my coverage started. So I think that's part of what I guess made my coverage a little bit unique, is that I think it was like I was kind of learning along with the audience through it all, and I got essentially an expert on to kind of cover it with me. But what really got me started was an edit, which, you know, I've told this story many times. There was a Jinx edit, crack connoisseur on Twitter. I think I don't think his account exists anymore. I assume he deactivated or something. I doubt he got nuked. But anyways, I mean, he's been nuked many times. But he had this Terrence Yeakey edit, which really caught my eye/ear. Really tugged at my heartstrings. I was also just kind of incredulous. Like, this seems nuts. Like, kind of the story that was being told in that, I know, 2 to 3 minute little musical, you know, rendition. Which, for those who aren't aware, what a Twitter edit. That's kind of, I know, it's kind of like your intro at the beginning here. It's kind of I don't know, different audio and video interspliced with, you know, a lot of maybe like different documents, or usually telling a story. I mean, very common in the conspiracy landscape. So I saw that, and that just kind of freaking blew my mind. It's like, holy crap. So I went and looked into it. It's just kind of like, this can't be real. The story Terrence Yeakey went and looked into it, and it's kind of like the more I look at him, like more I'm like, oh my god. And so that's when the Terrence Yeakey story that really just kind of was like, holy moly. And then I just kind of put a call out to the world, I guess, and I was like, I don't remember exactly what I said, but something along the lines of like, hey, who do I need to get to, you know, cover Oklahoma City bombing? I want to cover this on the show. And I heard from multiple people, I think Scott Horton being one of them, that, hey, get Richard Booth on. And Richard Booth, he is I call him the crypt keeper of the Libertarian Institute Oklahoma City Bombing Archive, which that is the largest public, Oklahoma City bombing archive of, I guess, public documents, I guess is a way to put it, just different any documents or anything, concerning it, different articles, whatever, anything you can really think of, just a repository of information for that. It's the largest public one out there, and that's hosted by the Libertarian Institute, which is Scott Horton's website. So, and it's it's Richard Booth, the one who manages it pretty much entirely. And it's essentially Google for the Oklahoma City bombing. So you go in there, you type in Yeakey, and then boom, it brings up all the different documents and articles and whatever, if 302 reports, whatever concerning him, anything relating to that. So it's kind of depending on keywords, search related. Anyways, it was, so then I got him, and we spent around, I'd say probably around 15 hours on a series. There's a bonus episode in there with Ken Silva in the middle, and also there are other primary sources, interviews throughout there. I interviewed Tanya Yeakey, which was an incredible treat, because that was kind of what started me down this road She was, I never would have imagined interviewing her. She hadn't been interviewed since back into the 90s. So it was like 96, I think, the last time she was interviewed. Also interviewed Steve Vassar, which was one of the best friends of Yeakey. And, done a number of other things related to this and made some, I think some actual research happen. So I think that's cool. Whether that was me or if I just kind of facilitated it. So I don't know. It's kind of cool to think I've had some sort of footprint on this story, and hopefully I can continue to have more, because I do think this is a super important story to, like, one, like you laid out, it is kind of a sleeper story. Most people aren't even really aware there's so much to this, and it is a lot. So most people aren't even aware. It's also kind of one that's at it's due its time. So it's like at that moment, in the rhythm that, like, circular, like how time works with these deep events, and when we start getting crazy disclosure or public awareness raising, it just seems we're at that spot where it's supposed to be. That scab's supposed to be getting picked. That that bandage is supposed to be taken off around right now. That's when I think shit is really supposed to break. Is around right now, and it's a kind of a little bit of a bummer that I think a lot of people have forgotten. It almost got overshadowed by 9/11. Right. But I think there's just so much in it, which some of which I think it's also it being more niche makes it more fun in a certain sense. Fun, I guess, is the wrong word, but so for open for research.
I get what you mean, though.
Yeah, but like 9/11, it's kind of like. It's boring. Like, I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about it. I'm not interested in 9/11 research. I'm just not. It bores me. I don't know why. It's just because it's like everyone talks about 9/11. I've heard people talk about 9/11 so many times. Just I hear 9/11, I just go. But I don't know. For me, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a hipster like that. I hear Oklahoma City bombing. I'm like, okay. But anyways, point being is it's at that time, and I think the being overshadowed by the 9/11 actually might be a little bit of its own secret weapon. That people are kind of like expecting maybe some sort of push for 9/11 still, when it's like, nope, gotcha, sucker. This one's hiding in the wing. But anyways, I know I'm kind of rambling now. I'm story I care about a lot. And that's kind of how I got dragged into it was the story of Yeakey, and I think it's really for me with Yeakey's story, it really is just I don't know. I just I was able to sympathize with essentially a company man of sorts that was. At that like midway level of his career that clearly was running into issues with the top brass, trying to do the right thing, and just really just getting butt up against by the reality of the beast that is the Leviathan of government. I can very much sympathize with it. That is my story and many other people that I've known who have like spent, I don't know, a year in the realm of a decade in government and go, oh my God, this is soul crushing. You feel trapped. Luckily I've been able to kind of, I was sort of trapped, but I've been able to kind of somewhat leverage the limited success I've had from podcasting to be able to, I don't know, not be in the poorhouse. So thank you guys for that.
Right.
So yeah, that's been cool. Like I said, I'll be going on Jake Shields and stuff soon. So, you guys have been good to me. I mean, I'm not rich by any means, but I'm doing okay. So I appreciate you guys' support out there.
And honestly, I got to say, I think it's super rad. I love seeing my friends get out there and make something of themselves, especially something they like doing. Success for one is success for all. And, seeing, because I've followed you pretty much since you started the Oklahoma City series. And so just to see like your progression, it's just really cool. And I'm really proud of you. I think that's super awesome. And it's awesome to get you on my show finally. So, but with that, let's jump into Oklahoma City just a little bit. I actually do have one of these edits that I was going to play real quick just to give kind of people an idea of what we're talking about. So let's go ahead and play that. I actually have two. We'll play one a little bit later. I have a Yeakey one as well. So, but this first one is just kind of a general OKC, and we'll go from there.
Tedious process of removing the debris, and it's unreal.
If anybody knows of anything, this is my mom. She's 47.
All my friends are missing.
accident. We've checked all the hospitals. We've left her picture everywhere. But we really feel in our hearts that was her that we saw.
Medical expert to RN.
But anyway, hopefully God straighten us time to be able to open these things up more thoroughly. And we just thought we'd try and break it out.
Both sides are wrong. This is getting crazy.
Real concerned. What's going on in my neighborhood?
We was all in the house
all
saying hi, and I told
men suddenly descended
We need some warm body.
shaken, disillusioned, angry. That could happen.
I feel like just one big boom. Really loud.
I dove under the desk and then all the glass.
What do you think of what you just saw?
Oh my God, if that's anything to what it didn't do, oh my goodness, I couldn't imagine what they did to those people.
We have a large column of smoke to be south of this address. Are you going to check on that?
So that's one of the many OKC schizo clips or Twitter clips that you see floating around. So just real quick to give a quick rundown of at least the official story for anyone who might not know. On April 19th, 1995, which means we are coming up on the 30th anniversary this year, Timothy McVeigh, a 26-year-old U.S. Army veteran with anti-government views, detonated a truck bomb outside the Alfred P. Moriah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The bomb, made of ammonium nitrate fertilizer and diesel fuel, was packed into a rented Ryder truck parked in a drop-off zone. At 9:02 a.m., it exploded, killing 168 people, including 19 children, and injuring over 600. The blast destroyed a third of the building and damaged hundreds of nearby structures. McVeigh acted primarily alone, driven by rage over federal actions at Ruby Ridge and Waco, which he saw as overreaches of power. Terry Nichols, an Army acquaintance, assisted by helping acquire materials and build the bomb at Nichols' farm in Kansas. McVeigh was arrested 90 minutes after the attack during a traffic stop, linked by evidence like bomb residue on his clothes and a rental receipt. Nichols surrendered days later. The FBI concluded it was a domestic terrorist act with no broader conspiracy. McVeigh was convicted on federal murder charges in 1997 and executed in 2001. Nichols received life without parole for federal and state bombing-related charges. The attack remains the deadliest act of domestic terrorism in U.S. history. So that's a quick rundown of the official story. So I guess, where was it for you where the first piece of information where you said, oh, this is bullshit?
Well, for me, as I was working from Yeakey, like as I said, so I started from Yeakey. I think there's different entrance points for different people. I think it's different strokes, different folks. I think maybe it's a matter of, I don't know, maybe if you're more of an emotional mind or an analytical mind. I think the analytical mind will tend to get caught up with John Doe 2, surveillance tape, stuff like that. But I think the emotional mind, or maybe there's a better word I'm looking for here, but we'll probably get caught up more in the Trentadue and the Yeakeys and in those sort of story. And that's what did it for me. I think it's just my really as I said before, I can empathize with the situation, and plus the father thing is really gets to me. So I don't know, that sort of thing tugs on my heartstrings a lot. So that's what really did to me. But really, Yeakey's story, just this guy that was reporting to everybody. And there's a lot of people claiming around him that he was having issues with the brass around him, that he really just didn't buy the story, and then this guy ends up dead in a field. about a year and some change after the bombing, after all of this, after fighting with the brass, after being there's a letter with another person researching these things, but he's found in a in a field a mile or half a mile to a mile and a half away from his car, which is covered in blood. And he has, what looks like lacerations on his wrist, his neck. He has blood, looks like or grass packed into the wounds. He's got a gunshot wound to the head going at a downward angle. I mean, there's just so much going on here that it's just bizarre. I mean, there's more to this story, but it's very clearly. This guy was killed, and you look into it more, and you're like, why was this guy killed? What were they covering up? I mean, that is probably, I think one of the things that brings people back to that story over and over again when it comes to Yeakey. What did he see? There's a lot of people who claim different things. His sister LaShawn claimed that he said something along the lines of seeing evidence of things blowing out as opposed to in. The implication there being, bombs in the building as opposed to, bombs outside the building. The official narrative being bombs outside the building, because if you have a truck bomb, it is on the outside of the building, is therefore blowing towards the building, blowing in, as opposed to blowing out, which you have bombs inside of it. So there's that. I mean, there's other things that people claim. I know when I had Tanya on the show, she brought up the ATF shenanigans and how none of the ATF were in the building, and then there were all these crazy stories that came out about these stories of heroics from the ATF, how they actually were in the building and they did this, that, this, all the Rolodex of cover stories. That they're, and it looks like in all of that it looked like the pandemonium from the start. There was, there were reasons to believe that between Terry and I always mess up his name, the doctor. I always want to say Jolly West, but obviously that's a different doctor. But it's the
Right.
What is his name? And then sometimes I want to say the Chaplain Poe, because that's another Perth story name in there, but that's not right either. But there was another doctor who was working with Yeakey, who also died under extremely suspicious circumstances. So, and the key point with him and Yeakey, this doctor and him, is that they were one of the first people on the scene. The doctor was helping provide health or emergency care for people affected on the scene. Terry was obviously one of the first people there. They were trying to get the doctor to provide treatment to ATF individuals, as the claim, that didn't need it. Obviously the implication there to make it look like, now you have documented, I provided medical care for so-and-so, he was here, providing some sort of documentation. So there's that. They think there might be something in the realm of there that apparently Terry got into a big argument with one of the ATF guys there as a result of all of that. Essentially, he seemed to think there were shenanigans afoot. And it's like, why are you guys, you clearly weren't here, trying to make it look like you were? What is going on? So apparently he was spooked from the jump. So I think there were probably a number of things that tipped Terry off to what's going on, and from there he started doing his own investigation. And I think that ended up leading to his demise. So, but at the same time, it did, I guess, kind of wake up a lot of us along the way, since here I am, and Terry was my entry point into the story.
So, I mean, this is kind of a stupid question, but do you believe that Yeakey was very clearly murdered?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any theory as to who it could have been? Would it have been local or possibly federal, do you think?
Oh, this is where we get really spooky. I mean, this is incredibly speculative. I have no idea. This is where I get into weird stuff. I don't think I'm blowing up anyone's spot, because I think Tanya said this somewhere publicly, but I believe she said Ted Gunderson said something to her about how he thought it may have been satanic or something, which obviously a lot of people would scoff at first, and it does seem kind of ridiculous, and maybe it is ridiculous. I don't know. But, I mean, there are reasons to, think of Ted as a dubious source. I understand that. But I don't know. I mean, I also am very hip to the Program to Kill thesis. And it is like, I don't know, if we were to have kill squads of some sort, you'd probably need some pretty sick fucks to do that sort of stuff. So,
Right.
I don't know. But anyways, I guess I digress. Just kind of, who did it? I don't know. I don't know the exact three-letter agency, if you would even consider it to be a three-letter agency, or if it's some sort of entity within an entity. I have no
Right.
idea, but I think someone reached out, or I think probably actually a couple people probably reached out and touched Terry and took care of that problem. Now, there was a big, this is actually newer information that came out during the CNN interview that came out recently from CNN's Thomas Lake. He wrote a piece on Terry within the past couple of years, which was surprising to say the least. 'Cause
Really
it's
surprising.
Actually, a really good piece. I mean, there's things I can quibble about, and things that have been pointed out, like Tanya herself pointed out that they did, maybe something to look out for if you are being conspiratorial or skeptical of their reporting, is that they did seem to raise up some of the characters that maybe you should be a little bit concerned of as being baddies, as being more, maybe not necessarily good characters, is more like raising them up as I don't know, as sources, I guess, and also kind of putting them in a more favorable light, if that makes sense. But even then, that aside, it's like that's a very minor quibble, and it's kind of like, I don't know. It was a good piece of it. I forgot why I even was mentioning the. Why was I even mentioning the CNN article? I don't even remember why I mentioned
The new information that had come out due to the article.
The new information that came out. What was I talking about the new information that came out specifically from the CNN? Oh, who killed him? Who done it? The information that came out, there's a Ramona McDonald is one of the, this is the other person, Tanya Yeakey. It was before I interviewed Tanya Yeakey, there was Tanya Yeakey and there was Ramona McDonald. Those were my two, these are the people I want to interview. Somehow Tanya Yeakey just fell in my lap. She actually found my work, was like, oh, I like your work. I would like to, talk to you. I know you have really taken a liking to my husband's, whatever. And essentially she hit me up.
Right.
But Ramona is the other one that I have no idea myself how to get a hold of her. So anytime I try to bring this up, anytime I can, anyone out there knows her, anything like that, knows Ramona McDonald, let me know, because she is a big source, someone that would be great to have on the record in a podcast format to talk about a lot of these things. Because she does show up occasionally as a source, and she was, especially in the early days of the bombing, she's actually a noted character a lot of people know in the the narrative of the Oklahoma City bombing. She showed up occasionally. It was like I said, it was Ramona McDonald, and she ended up she kind of backed off when I guess she had a slew of personal issues directly related to her speaking out about the Oklahoma City bombing after it. So she ended up changing her name, and she got a whole hell of a lot more quiet to the extent of really not ever getting involved anymore, really. And but she did contribute a little bit to the most recent CNN article, and in that article she goes into how there were two individuals that Terry was supposed to go meet around the time he disappeared. Now, these were feds of some sort. She'd actually talked with them, met with them sort of semi-unofficially as well. These are all reasons I'd love to talk to her to clear these out to, more than just what's printed in print. But anyways, she claims that he went to go meet with these people. These were some sort of glowies of some sort that Terry seemed to think maybe he could get them to listen about whatever he had. So he was going to go to them. In his eyes, these were glowies that were going to listen. He had been trying to get people to listen to him for a while. He had some sort of information. These ones were going to listen. She made a point to mention how he made a point to mention that he wasn't going to bring his gun for this meeting. Obviously, the implication being, concerned it could be used against you. Now, this is odd. I do find it odd. The last time we heard from Ramona McDonald in Hoffman's article back in 96, 97 or something, she did mention that he was supposed to go meet with some feds, but at that point, I believe the claim was that he blew off the meeting. So I would be interested to know like what changed, if maybe it was some sort of misunderstanding. But either way, so the original was it was originally the thought was that he went to go to some meeting. He was supposed to have some sort of meeting with feds, blew it off. And then, the more recent information is that he supposedly did go to the meeting and made a point not to bring his gun. So anyways, I digress. That's kind of, I don't remember exactly why I went on that, but who did it? I guess they would be whoever these feds were. He probably went to go meet to probably tell him about this super secret information he had that he probably had been being super secretive about, not telling anyone about, which is kind of part of the story, which is, I think, to some extent what got him, screwed him over here is, he didn't even talk to like Tanya about the specifics of this.
Right.
She knew something was wrong. Like, for example, there's like the famous statement of when she picked him up from the hospital after the Oklahoma City bombing because he got injured saving people. One little detail I left out, he was the first responder. He saved upwards of 3 people at least. That's a very, very, very gross underestimate of the people he probably saved. But he hurt himself in the process. She picked him up, and when she picked him up, he was in a rush to get the hell out of there. He was spooked, seemed to think someone was he might have been in danger or something. But one of the first things he said to her when he got in the car was, Tanya, it's not what they're telling you, or they're lying to you. I think I might have got that a little bit wrong, but essentially that was the crux of it. And he was, borderline had tears in his eyes. So, I mean, he was always dodgy about details, and the reason being is he was concerned, it would be that he was concerned that she would know too much. So,
right. Now, maybe I got this wrong, but Ramona, she was one of the women investigating it, correct? Because there was like this group of like citizens or locals that were investigating
like Heroes of
it.
the Heart or something, I think, or
yeah,
something like that.
I think so.
Yeah, Tanya worked on it too. Yeah.
And I think I read somewhere that she was one of the few people that actually got a copy of Yeakey's original police report that he handed in. It might have been her or someone else, but somebody had a copy of it after the fact, and somebody broke into her house and stole it, which
that is part of the story. Yeah, she got her shit ransacked after, as did Tanya as well. So
right,
her shit. So
right, and so yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that was the same person that we were talking about. Mm-hmm. And so Yeakey, I mean, to me, out of all of it, Kenneth Trentadue is a close second, but I think these 2 stories in particular really make this seem like more of a cover-up, right? Or a false flag. Like without these 2 stories, maybe it could be, but these 2 stories, like they stand out so much. And then it's like, well, okay, a mysterious death, but then you look into exactly how Yeakey passed, and it is somebody sending a very clear message. Like that was brutal. That was, it was just heinous.
Yeah, it was 2 liters of blood, they said, which, I've looked into it, and 2 liters is basically where you're pretty much losing consciousness. You may have already lost consciousness, and you're not far along from dying.
Right.
So, and to add on to all of this is, keep in mind, the car is some distance, half mile to a mile and a half away from where the body is found. The car is what is covered in 2 liters of blood. His body somehow got from there to there. And on top of all of this, this man was a sickle cell anemic. So he would have bled like crazy. So the idea that he could have, even on the low ball, the low ball is half a mile away from the car, which I find the claims that it's a half a mile to be questionable. I think it's more than a mile and a half. But either way, even in a half mile, the idea that a man who lost 2 liters of blood and had sickle cell anemia was going to travel a half mile into a field and blow his brains out, it's not happening. It's not happening.
Right. And the fact that they never found the firearm that he supposedly shot himself with at such a odd downward angle. Yep. Because everyone knows that you hold it like this if you're gonna remove yourself. And I mean, just everything else, like the rope burns, the grass and gravel stuck into his wounds. I mean, it's just, how more blatant could it be? I guess my favorite my favorite quote is from Dave McGowan. It's how many coincidences does it take to make a conspiracy? You know, like how many of these are we supposed to ignore before we realize, like, oh, this is actually the official story is bullshit.
Exactly.
So we've touched on Yeakey a bit. Do you want to give a rundown on Trentadue, Kenneth Trentadue, and how he ties into this?
Yeah, sure. Well, he was Kenneth was a Vietnam vet. He had a heroin addiction. I guess this is a common thing. A lot of the Vietnam vets kind of pick up that habit during that time. He was got into robbing banks to kind of deal with his habit. Got caught, did all that stuff, dealt with it, went to jail, all that. Now he ended up having a parole violation later. The issue was that he didn't want to. Part of one of the conditions of the parole was that he couldn't drink, and he said to hell with that. But he got his brother Jesse Trentadue to try to assist him with the pushing back against the parole board, seeing if he can. Maybe get some sort of amendment to it or something, some way around it. But no, they wouldn't go for it. They wouldn't budge. And he just kind of was like, all right, well, I'm going to drink. So I'm not showing up to any more of these parole meetings because it's like, I'm telling you right now, I'm drinking and you ain't letting me do it. So but I'm going to drink. So I don't know, you know where I am. Come get me whenever you want to get me, I guess. And they just never got him. And that was really all there was to it. I guess they just said to hell with it, didn't care, and then until one day they did care when he was crossing the Mexican border with his wife. They were his wife was the reason I mentioned her. She was Mexican, so I mean I believe the implication is here likely visiting family or something along those lines. Now this happened at the same time. There was a nationwide hunt for John Doe 2 going on, which we didn't really touch on John Doe 2. We kind of did a little bit, but I guess to kind of quickly touch on that, literally every single person who saw McVeigh the day of the bombing saw him with another person. So that's basically the short of that there. But for some reason, the official narrative became old Timmy just blew it up all by himself. I mean, the all by himself was an asterisk with the assistance, in a supportive role by Terry Nichols, and I guess sort of by Fortier, who ended up turning state witness. But anyways, I digress. But the point being is they were looking for. There was a period of time where the FBI actually went along with this John Doe 2 thing because every single eyewitness said, "Hey, this guy was with somebody else, and this is kind of what he looked like." They described, honestly, it kind of a lot like me. Shorter, stocky guy, kind of darkish, but not like I mean, you could be a minority, ethnically ambiguous, I guess would be a good way to put it, but so kind of tan, so kind of tan, muscular, thick neck, not short. I mean, so he's not as short as I am, so he's probably supposed to be 5'7" to 5'9". But anyways, point being is, so this was a guy that was seen with him. There was another person seen with him, seen getting out of the Ryder truck and everything with him. So another individual with him. Now, obviously, the news gets out. They end up, getting John Doe 1, who's Timothy McVeigh. John Doe 2, they never find. They go a couple months of searching him officially, and then the official narrative becomes, oh, he didn't exist. It was some sort of misremembering or some nonsense like that, which makes no sense. So the claim is that basically literally every eyewitness was wrong, but they were right about the identifying McVeigh because they were used to prove McVeigh was there, legally speaking. So they will use their word to say that he was there, but not anything else about what they claim about the situation. So anyways, this was during the John Doe 2 hunt. Now this Trentadue feller, he kind of looks a lot like John Doe 2. Like I said, he's a white guy, so a lot of times John Doe 2 is sometimes described as being like Mexican or Indian or Middle Eastern, but But Trentadue was a white guy, but he kind of had a little bit of a darker tan. Had some other similar features. There was reportedly the John Doe 2 had like a dragon tattoo on his left forearm or something, I believe. So he had that as well. He also was, this is kind of getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but there is reason to believe that John Doe 2 may have been hanging out in the employ of some bank robbers or had something to do with a group of bank robbers. So now we have this guy who has a history of robbing banks, coming back from Mexico at the height of one of the largest fugitive hunts, matching this guy's description in all sorts of ways. And then all of a sudden they decide this is the time that they're going to get him for this old parole violation. And then they take him from, I believe this is happening in Mexico, I think. Yeah, or not Mexico, but in Texas. Either Texas or California. I want to say it's California. Yeah, I think it's California. And then they take him and they bring him to an Oklahoma City detention facility. It's like a federal transfer facility or something, I think it's called. I forget. Some sort of federal facility where they bring these people. That's where they end up bringing him for that. This is, bear in mind, this is during when they're having this big John Doe 2 thing going on. John Doe 2 is also, I wanted to mention he was thought to have likely have fled the country. So him coming out of Mexico, kind of a big deal. So they were on, top alert for this stuff at the time. So he ends up in Oklahoma. So like I said, he ends up being put in a special, high security part of the prison. And ends up committing suicide. So obviously we see parallels kind of Epstein, like despite being in like the protective unit or whatever, it's like somehow still managed to kill himself. Video goes disappearing, all the like that. So this is an area he shouldn't have been able to kill himself. Found hanging from a bed sheet. He had cuts, bruises, burns all over his body. There were also 2 other inmates there who claimed they heard like screams and things of the like, kind of sounding like torture. And then you wouldn't believe it, but these 2 guys also died. So before it was all said and done, those guys died as well. So they one of them, I believe, was a drug overdose, and one of them got the old sads as well and decided to kill himself, just like Trentadue. It's just weird how SADS seems to be contagious like this. So yeah, we have Trentadue himself dying, and then the 2 inmates who claim they heard sounds that sounded, something along the lines of struggles, torture, whatever. Those guys died. There also was, on top of all that, as if there wasn't enough death going around, we had a videographer who was an expert videographer who was, how do I put this? Like, apparently the FBI, I guess, had come to him to ask for his expert opinion on essentially if there's any way that the videos that were supposed to have been there and witnessed the death of Kenneth Trentadue, which weren't there, as I mentioned earlier. These things magically disappeared or weren't, I don't think they were recording or whatever. I forget the specifics of it, but either way, they got this expert videographer to look at this and go, hey, look at this doodad. Is there any way that it could have not recorded or not worked or whatever the reason was for any other reason other than manual, like one of us doing it? Like, is there a way to explain this that was kind of like a oopsies? And they go, no. His expert opinion is no. They were also really insistent that none of this was written down or anything like that. This guy, he ends up contacting Jesse, who is Kenneth's brother, who happens to be a lawyer, and he tells him about all of this, that the FBI came to him for. He was willing to testify for Jesse, and this guy died too. He died of a heart attack, so to be fair, he could have just died of natural causes, but I don't know. You can never be schizo enough, and we know about the old church committee and the heart attack guns, so I don't know. It's not outside the realm of possibility. I mean, I don't know if I feel like they wouldn't brush off the heart attack gun for a situation like that, but maybe they would. McVeigh also contacted Jesse Trentadue to tell him that he thought that his brother, Ken died as a result of FBI mistaking his brother for Richard Lee Guthrie, who a lot of people think may have been John Doe 2. It gets a little bit confusing because it's not really John Doe 2 so much as I believe there are multiple John Doe 2s, and I do think Richard Lee Guthrie probably was one of them, which this is as I was implying about the bank robbery things, Richard Lee Guthrie was one of the heads of the ARA, which was this group that, seemed to have connections to McVeigh, and likely probably were the numerous John Doe 2s assisting McVeigh with the bombing itself, and part of a larger network that contributed to this. So, anyways, Guthrie also died, by the way, committed suicide in jail, because around the same time that Ken was in jail, Richard was as well. So it looks like, I think it almost looks like a left hand not talking to the right hand, or just not even being aware of what's going on. I'm sure, I don't know how information was dispersed, but they may not even have been aware of who exactly they were looking for. It may not have been perfect information dispersed amongst the glowies. So they may have very well thought that when they came across Jesse or Ken Trentadue, that this was in fact Richard Lee Guthrie or someone matching description that was something close to them. They may not even have known the name. They may have just known, hey, this guy fits him almost perfectly. But if you look at pictures of Richard Lee Guthrie and Jesse Trentadue, look very much alike. Also, both of them are very similar to the descriptions of John Doe 2. Anyways, Richard Lee Guthrie, like I said, he also died in prison. He had made a lot of claims saying he was going to kind of blow the lid off of it. He was talking to a lot of journalists and stuff, and then he died in prison from the SADS. The interesting thing about the story, though, is that I've always thought the real big takeaway from this is just kind of like, I don't know, there's something really poetic about you taking like a heroin addict, like bank robber, and like the government just like murdering him, and oh, hey, look, you screwed up. This guy actually, like, you looked at this guy and thought that no one cared about him, that he means nothing, and he's just scum. No, his brother is a lawyer, and you just set him on a warpath to go after you the rest of his life.
Right, right. Jesse Trentadue is a badass.
Yeah, which I do want to say, I actually keep forgetting to mention this to my audience. I'm streaming this to my audience right now, so I guess this seems appropriate. I was supposed to have him on Sunday, and I totally forgot to tell you guys that didn't happen. I felt bad because I did really hint something was going to happen. And that fell through. So I'm just letting you guys know. That was who it was supposed to be. I'm really bad at keeping secrets. I should be more professional and stop telling ahead of time when I have something big. But I just get too excited and I can't help but telling you guys. So, but he'll probably likely come back on or come on sometime in the future. It's just there was a scheduling issue, and then I think he also was going back to court and stuff. So he's a lot going on, and he's an old feller. So he's got to get his sleep. So.
Yeah, that's one guy I've wanted to get on my show as well, especially because we're both in the same neck of the woods, so it's something I could actually do in person. So that will probably have to happen at some point. So just to kind of keep it moving, what do you feel about the I believe it's the Elohim City or Elohim? Whatever, the Elohim City connection. Basically, anyone who doesn't know, the white supremacist compound up in Elohim, whatever, in Oklahoma is often cited as a planning hub for the bombing. Informant Carol Howe reported that residents, including Andreas Strassmere, discussed bombing federal buildings. Conspiracy theorists argue the government suppressed this link to avoid exposing a wider far-right network or its own intelligence failures.
Yeah, I am a proponent of the Elohim theory. I do think there's a lot going on over there in Elohim. It's kind of hard to get a read on exactly what's going on, but that was the hub of a group of individuals, the ARA, as I mentioned earlier, whereas Richard Lee Guthrie being one of them, the individual who ended up, very much bearing a very striking likeness to Kenneth Trentadue. They both ended up dying of the SADS. So we have, God, what was my fucking point? We were talking about Elohim. So then we have Langan, who, Donna Langan, is what they became later known as, because this is Troon right here. Funny enough, I believe one of the first ones who ended up being, I don't know if they actually received it or they were going to receive it, but essentially receive a government-funded transition care or something like that. They were like one of the first ones to either receive it or be due to. I forget the specifics on it, but it's just kind of funny. This is one that was thrown around as like landmark, progressive, and it's like that was a neo-Nazi bank robber, right?
Right,
That likely
right.
probably caused the Oklahoma City bombing to some degree. But anyways,
Right.
so that Langan, who has an insane story, 2 CIA spooks in their immediate family, their dad being the most notable one, their sister being the other one. I don't really know what all she really did or anything of significance. The dad was like the head dude in like Vietnam, the head CIA guy. Literally was there at like the height of the before and after and at the height of a coup. So his like literally we have little boy Langan playing with the other little kids in the palace that they would hang out at, and then one day comes along and just killed a bunch of the dignitaries, and okay, I guess we're not playing with little Ling Ling anymore, I guess we just murdered my best friend's, dad. Or it's crazy. Like Langan's story, his dad was clearly involved in like Operation Phoenix, and literally was seemed to be involved in a lot of the kill squad type stuff going on over there. But a big wig. He also saw the monks that lit themselves on fire, self-immolated. Dude had a crazy early life. I think his dad died at a pretty young age, and he went through the ringer. So we have the ARA there. We have this weird, I don't know, it's been referred to sometimes as like a cult, I guess you could say, the Elohimites or whatever up there. That they kind of fall under the tutelage of Grandpa Millar, who's been an FBI informant in the past. I don't think he really, it's not like something he ever really hides from.
Right.
Yeah, it's a odd group of individuals. We have Dennis Mahon, who was along with Strassmeyer, who was another person up in the neck of Elohim City. That he reportedly went with Strassmeyer, Mahon, and Carol Howe. Supposedly cased out Oklahoma City, and I want to say multiple times. And one of the buildings they cased was the Murrah Federal Building itself, the courthouse too, I believe. So
yeah, I was just about to bring that up, that this is actually been brought up before as far as that building being a target. And I think I watched an interview somewhere where some people were talking and saying that for whatever reason it just like didn't feel right, or they felt like a calling from God to not attack it, or so, like something strange. Like it was just like whatever the reason was, it just never ended up happening. But these people did actually look at the same federal building.
It was Dennis
to actually
Mahon
attack.
that had I don't know how many years prior, but the exact same date had a plot in place to do the exact same thing. Ammonium nitrate bomb, everything. Yeah, so weird stuff. Yeah,
right. And so that does kind of tie into the theory that this was kind of a false flag in order for one to discredit the militia movement, which was like massive in the 90s. Anyone who wasn't there or old enough at the time. Let's see, I did have something. Let's see, a ATF set up in Waco revenge misdirection. McVeigh stated motive retribution for the Waco siege is questioned as the ATF officers in the federal building sustained minimal damage and many agents were absent during the blast. Which is incredibly weird. I mean, so this building had like tons of different federal offices, and then supposedly the people being targeted were just not there that day.
And it was 9 a.m. too. I mean, to be fair, I think I forget which book I was reading recently, because I've always looked for a figure, and I probably should have committed to memory a little bit, but I want to say we were in the amount of agents they had. It must have been the Pritchard book because I just read that recently. But I want to say it was like in the, not in single digits, but it was and not in the teens. But I want to say it was maybe in like the 20s or less, somewhere in that realm. So it wasn't like an obscene amount of people that worked in that office. So it's not like it's not crazy unbelievable they couldn't all be there, but it was 9:02 I think when the explosion happened or something. So it's like it was 9 in the morning. So it's like I don't know. I would assume in the 90s. So I would assume that like yeah, I mean even if you are a super secret agent, I would assume there would be at least some desk workers and stuff doing something at 9 in the morning in the office. So,
right.
You know, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, and this was a pretty busy federal building. Like there was a lot going on.
Oh, well, what I mean is that that's referred specifically to the ATF. There were plenty of people who got hurt and stuff in the other.
Well, yeah, but
it was claimed the ATF was the target, and none of them were in the building. So yeah, but there were plenty of other agents, government agents, but like things like IRS and shit like that. But like the proposed target, the ATF, yeah, none of those guys. Somehow this was super big deal for Timmy McVeigh to enact this revenge, but he didn't even bother to do the intel to see if anyone would even be there, you know?
Right. And I do find that kind of strange, like all of a sudden, so there were many reports, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but supposedly there were reports of agents getting text messages, or not text messages, but beepers, phone calls, beepers, these sorts of notifications to not come in, which... What's that? And then one thing I wanted to ask you about was the bomb squad truck. Do you have an opinion on that?
1 second. I actually have something for you that I think you would appreciate. Where the fuck is it? Let me see. Is that right? Or no, this is it right here. Show the tab and set. All right, here you go. You were just speaking about the beeper. Here you go.
Right.
Is it up right now? And then press play.
Yeah. That's...
All right. Let's go and play this.
Suspicion of fire warning is bolstered too by this man we found, who spoke to us anonymously at his wife's request. She worked in the Morrow building, which was the local headquarters for the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the federal agency most directly involved in catching bombers.
I spotted a ATF officer in a jacket that signified that it was ATF personnel. And he just came out and told me that the ATF wasn't in the building that day. They'd been tipped by their pagers not to come to work, which I was flabbergasted. You know, I didn't ask this guy this question. This is just what came out of his mouth.
Did he go further to explain why they were told not to come to work?
They were tipped by their pagers of a bomb threat that morning.
Yep, so they were told there was a bomb threat this morning and to not come in, and that's why they didn't come in.
And that's really strange. So for anyone who might not know, there were reports of
bomb threats, yeah.
Yep, bomb threats, and not only at that building, there was a couple around the city.
The fire chief, I believe if I remember correctly, I want to say it was something like the assistant fire chief or something that ended up being the one that copped up to it. But I can't remember where they had heard it initially, but I don't know if it was J.D. Cash or Pritchard or whoever it was went to go talk to them, and then they were initially like, nope, that's not a thing that happened, and nope, we didn't hear any sort of news about keep an eye out for nobody or nothing like that. And then I guess I don't know, they went down the hall and asked somebody else, and it was like the number 2 guy there in the office or wherever, and he was like, yeah, I'm not lying for anybody, like, no, that happened. And he went on record and was like, yeah, no, like, we were told to keep an eye out for these people, like that there's some bad hombres coming through or whatever. I mean, obviously they didn't say that, but
right.
You know what I mean? The idea that they were told to, like, it was even weirder too, because it was like keep an eye out for something, or it was something weird along those lines. It was also like a weird, like, kind of weird ass kind of warning is that, like, that's useless,
right?
So, But either way, it's still it's bizarre. Yeah, and you were talking about the bomb squad and the. I mean, that is an interesting component. I think this plays into the idea of there being 2 Ryder trucks, because the bomb squad, there were claims that people saw bomb squad trucks, particularly like over around the courthouse. There were claims that people saw like what looked like people with almost like, I want to say they were like almost like little scanny things, like looking around. These are all things that seem to match up with someone almost looking for, I don't know, like a tracking device that they maybe had in a vehicle or something. Because one of the common things thrown around was probably some sort of sting. But this is where the idea of multiple Ryder trucks come along. And there is research, I forget the minutia of why that seems to prove it, but this comes down to the ins and outs of times and eyewitness reports and when they actually got the Ryder truck. I want to say it's like there were eyewitness claims they saw a Ryder truck before the purchase of the Ryder truck that ended up blowing up. So this would imply there was another Ryder truck. But what would be the purpose of a second Ryder truck? Why would you need it? I don't know. Maybe it was too small. That was one that's thrown around a bunch. Maybe one was too small or whatever. They had to get a different size. I don't know. But one theory that I like is that let's just say that this was some sort of ATF sting or something like that. I mean, there was, what was it? I think it was called a depolmite or something. There was some sort of ATF thing going on. Not too, I want to say it was shortly before that or something, where they were looking into Ryder truck bombs type of explosions or whatever. I totally. What was I even talking about? I totally fucking. I'm spacey today, dude. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. The second Ryder truck, the bomb squad.
Oh yeah. So the idea being, if this was some sort of sting, you would have a tracking device in it. The idea being, on that day, you have, let's just say John Doe 2 was some sort of government agent, and let's say he's in the truck with McVeigh, and I don't know, let's say McVeigh is the baddie. Obviously, we can go, he's a government asset, but whatever. Let's say he's a through and through baddie, and he's driving the truck, and then let's say how this is supposed to go is they pull up to the spot, and then Timothy McVeigh gets out, and John Doe 2 pulls out of the truck, and then he pulls around, he yanks it up, and then you're under arrest, and you've been stopped, and like now we have this cool moment in front of the courthouse, and now you're like, they stopped the bomb, and there really wasn't, it was a fake bomb or something like that. Well, it looks like perhaps maybe that's not the case, and maybe there was actually an initial Ryder truck that had the little, the obligatory little tracker for this thing, and who's to say they didn't take that one out for a joyride somewhere else that morning, and between the slew of different John Doe 2s that we have, maybe they didn't help facilitate this. They didn't take the feds out for a wild goose chase while Timothy McVeigh shows up at a different time and a different building with a different explosive device. It just kind of seems like a good way to kind of, kind of throw a old switcheroo on the Fetty Poos if this was some sort of sting. This is just one that's thrown around a lot. I think it kind of matches up with the reports of the bomb squads and then the multiple Ryder truck theories. So, yeah.
Right. And I do find it weird this bomb squad truck it was supposedly written off as some guy just doing personal errands. Like he just took a bomb squad truck out to run like normal personal errands. What sense does that make? I mean, so to keep it moving, one thing, this is a bit more tinfoil, or maybe it's not. I actually don't know, and so I wanted to ask, what credence do you feel that any of this had to do with the Clinton Whitewater scandal? Is there any credence to this?
I'll be honest, I've not looked into it enough to really. I mean, this comes up a lot. People always bring it up. I don't really, because this comes down to there were files, and I believe I vaguely recall there were maybe one, maybe two claims of some sort of like, it looked like feds were maybe taking files or taking things. Whether that was files can maybe be the air, but I mean, the idea that they would be rooting through some things or taking some stuff, whether it be explosives or whatever, like unexploded ordnance, because that's another part of the story that we haven't really touched on. I don't. It's not that crazy. I mean, the documents I find to be kind of like an easy culprit, and almost like kind of seems too easy. I mean, maybe it's right. I also feel like I don't know. I know it was the '90s, so I mean, they probably weren't completely digitized, but like I don't know. You would assume if it was any sort of important government document, they would have backups in other places.
Right.
So, I mean, it never really seemed to have a lot of explanatory power for me. So yeah, I don't know. The idea that like they would do it to take out some documents just seems a little ridiculous to me. But I don't know.
Right.
It's just the one people always bring up. I just think it's like almost like just trying to shoehorn the Clintons into it, which like, I mean, you don't really. Which I will say, I guess if you are someone who's trying to make this like a sexy like Clinton list thing or something, it doesn't fit neatly into that. I mean, there is that there, but not in that juicy, like, you know, like, oh, here's this. Oh, here's this person that Clinton killed. And you're like, I think it's a little more indirect than that. I mean, there is the Merrick Garland did go visit with Hillary Clinton before he went to go start his trial. So literally the thing to know here is that he flew. So this is Merrick Garland, who was our Attorney General. This was like kind of like one of his like really breakout cases for him. This was like really kind of where he cut his teeth right here, was on this thing. I forget what his role was, but this is, he was kind of an up and comer. This is what made him. This is why he got hooked up. Let's be real. But he had to fly back to D.C. and then fly back all within the course of 24 hours to have an in-person meeting with Hillary Clinton, discussing what? We don't know. We know this because Richard Booth FOIA'd the White House visitor logs, and so we were able to confirm that they visited. So he flew up from Oklahoma to D.C. and then flew back within the course of 24 hours to visit with Hillary Clinton before the biggest case of his entire life, to talk about, for his legal coverage, I guess you could say, of what was her husband's, you know, I guess penultimate probably moment of his. I mean, he even said himself that if it wasn't for the Oklahoma City bombing, I don't think I would have got reelected. So, yeah, a lot going on there. So I really do. I think she likely probably did pull him aside and probably tell him like, hey, this is these are the beats. This is what we're doing. This is what's happening here. You know, don't call her outside the lines, or there will be issues. See, you got your orders. Have a good one. Like, you know.
So for anyone who doesn't know exactly what the Whitewater scandal is, it was in 1992, and it is considered to be one of the granddaddy of Clinton scandals, at least in the early years, back when they were still located in Arkansas. They surfaced during Bill Clinton's bid for presidency the first time. It centered on the financial contributions by Bill and Hillary Clinton into a real estate entity known as Whitewater Development Corporation during his time as an Arkansas state official. Eventually, the Justice Department and independent counsel launched investigations. The outcome was that neither Bill nor Hillary faced prosecution for their involvement in Whitewater, but their public statements about the matter and the handling of documents that went missing and later reappeared came under intense scrutiny. Their partners in the real estate investment were Jim McDougal and his then wife, Susan. Jim McDougal was convicted of fraud charges for making bad loans, and he died of heart disease in a Texas prison. Susan was convicted of fraud in connection with obtaining a $300,000 federally backed small business loan. She refused to answer grand jury questions in the Whitewater affair and was held in contempt of court, spending 18 months in jail. Bill Clinton pardoned her before he left the White House in early 2001. The idea that this was done solely for the purpose of getting rid of those documents, I mean, that seems absurd. But I have seen people make that claim.
I mean, maybe they did along the way, but like I don't know. I just find it dubious that they would just be stored there and then disappear. I don't know. Maybe I haven't really taken the time to dig it. It just seems that like it's just a weird focal point for people. I don't know. Maybe there's more to it than I think. It's just that like that's always the one that people always like, oh my God, this, and I'm like, as someone who spent a shitload of time looking at this, didn't really come up.
Right.
Like,
and I don't think it's like super important, but because it does come up a lot, I did want to ask about it because to me it seems like a big nothing burger, you know.
I've had the same thought too. Like I almost did an episode where we kind of covered those type of things where it was like those type of questions, because it is like there are a few of those. You're like, oh, you're in Oklahoma City bomb. What about this? And you're like, these are questions that like, but then when you're actually someone who's like a researcher, you don't really, you're like, that's not really something we put a whole lot of much into. So,
right.
I mean, I don't really even know really many people who have serious research who put a ton into that I'm aware of. I haven't seen any sort of threads, articles, anything along that.
Right.
I've seen it casually mentioned here and there, but never anything that's put any sort of serious oomph behind it that I'm aware of. I'd be happy to see if anyone out there knows of it. Feel free to tag me into it, because I do get this question quite a bit. So it would be it'd be cool if I had something more to come with, you know.
Yeah, that's just exactly what they want, is nobody to look into it. Yeah. But so another thing I wanted to bring up real quick was, and this kind of ties back into Yeakey, is the inside explosives. Supposedly experts like the Air Force Brigadier General Benton K. Parton and psychiatrist Samuel T. Cohen argued that the damage to the Moriah building couldn't have been caused solely by a truck bomb made of ammonium nitrate and fuel oil. They suggested additional explosives were planted inside, implying a more sophisticated operation than McVeigh and Nichols could have managed alone. So what's your position on the multiple bombs, or I guess the bomb inside the building versus outside? Where's your stance?
I mean, I lean towards bombs in the building. That's kind of where I'm at. I mean, we had Ruth Graham and Jane Schwab. I think I'm prone to swap their last names, so it might be the other way around. So, but those were two individuals that had FBI 302s where they claimed they saw individuals in the parking garage who looked like they were planting. And they described it in different ways, but essentially it sounds like they're describing someone with like wires and like a putty and blocks, and it sounds like someone putting C4 around. So there were a couple of people making claims like that. I mean, obviously the bombing analysis, like you pointed out, when it comes to the bombs, I mean, like I said, there was LaShawn that said that, the idea of it blowing out is supposed to end. There's, there's not the only person who's made those sort of claims about seeing things along those lines. There was the degree to which they were being crazy about not letting people back in. Like, part of Yeakey's story is that he was insistent on coming back and trying to take pictures, and Tanya went with him. They got shooed off from the site. He was really focused on the daycare for some reason. So what he was trying to look at, I don't know. One thing thrown out frequently is looking for maybe unexploded ordinances or something along those lines. So yeah, this is something thrown out along a lot. I by no means, it's not something that I'm beholden to in any way. I wouldn't be like, it would in no way is like integral to any sort of beliefs I have about the Oklahoma City bombing if it's not the case. But I do lean towards that probably being the case. That just seems to be, just between the claims of seeing people in there. I mean, some of the other things that seem to imply that they're were claims that show things that imply maybe bombs inside. I mean, there is even the ATF did stop the search the rescue efforts multiple times for unexploded ordnance or claims of unexploded ordnances in the wreckage. So this is usually passed off as being, the ATF was improperly storing explosives there. But then a lot of people will say, that's because they had C4 or whatever. So, it's kind of, pick your own story here. But either way, I mean, I think you look at it, it's not a uniform, explosion pattern. It does seem to be kind of odd. There's, I'm not going to get into the weeds of, the specifics. I mean, I've read a bunch on, that go into bombing analysis. So I tend to lean towards there were bombs in the building, but that's not something I can prove. And I don't know, it wouldn't blow my world away if it was otherwise. But I do think there were probably bombs in the building.
Yeah, that's kind of where I sit, especially with some of the things that Yeakey had said, and his insistence on trying to get back to where the daycare was. I mean, I guess it's possible that something else could have been there. But why would he be so interested in heading back, specifically to get a picture of that area? That always struck me as odd. Is exactly why did he want to get back there so bad, and also take a camera with him? That was just something that always struck me as odd. Real quick, before we get out of here, because I don't want to keep you too long, I did say that I did have another clip real quick, and it is a Yeakey clip, so let's go ahead and run that real quick before we get out of here.
He got very upset, started to cry a little bit, and said, Tanya, it's not what they're saying it is. They're not telling the truth. They're lying about what's going on down there.
So that was one edit. There are several around. I was trying to find another one. I'm pretty sure it's the one. Let's see. Do you have one pulled up?
No, I just I was, as you were playing that, I was like, here's one more thing that I just felt like would be kind of fun to just kind of drop on the audience without really spending a ton of time explaining, just because it's a fun little mic drop that we really didn't cover at all. This is a letter from Timothy McVeigh to his sister, a little excerpt, so you're not catching all of it, but I don't know, just kind of just take a little wonder what this is about. Let's go ahead and read it. It says, what I learned next, both from the briefings and from the questions and private talks, included 1. We would be helping the CIA fly drugs into the U.S. to fund many covert operations. 2. Military consultants were to work hand in hand with civilian police agencies to quote-unquote quiet anyone who was deemed a security risk, quote-unquote. In parentheses, we would be government-paid assassins. 3. Many other details. To verify these last two, see the enclosed article or watch again the movie Lethal Weapon. It also gives you new insight on things like Waco, etc. They were murdered by hitmen. That is from our illustrious Timothy McVeigh right there, to his sister. And this was years before the Oklahoma City bombing. So what this was about, I don't know. Weird stuff, guys. Weird stuff. These are all claims. All this crazy stuff Timothy McVeigh's talking about for no reason whatsoever.
Right. And this is actually kind of where I wanted to wrap things up real quick without spending too much time on it, like you said. But what is your opinion as far as McVeigh being an asset, whether it's CIA, FBI? I mean, there was him being interviewed by Jolly West, and there's all of these other things that we could just keep going on forever. So where are you when it comes to this sort of topic?
Oh, I'm pretty out there. This is one of the ones I think he was a glowy dude. I think he That dude glows. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I mean, hell, that what I just pointed as what we're looking at right now, that little excerpt from his letter to his sister. I mean, there's that. There's
Right.
other things he claimed to his first lawyers as well, something similar to this, who then later told Stephen Jones, his like a main defense attorney, that like you're going to totally have a completely different like outlook on like the legal system and like the whole system after this, and like there's multiple things. He made claims to his what was it, David Paul Hammer, I think, one of his buddies in jail. Timothy McVeigh made claims to him that, essentially along these lines. Dude even wrote a whole book about it, which is probably one of the next ones I'm going to be reading, is about like what really happened to him being kind of a glowy agent and what really happened. He, supposedly McVeigh gave his whole tell-all to David Paul Hammer, and so that's supposedly the real story for those who are interested. According to David Paul Hammer, who is kind of actually a noted con artist, so bear all that in mind. But so I don't know. I actually do kind of, with me saying that though, I kind of lean towards. I haven't read that yet, but from my understanding of that book, I kind of lean towards his sequence of events, and I think he might have been telling the truth that McVeigh did kind of tell him all this stuff, because it does match up with things he was telling other people as well. So. Yeah, it's just a bizarre thing to tell someone years before the bombing that, and this guy did, this is something we didn't tell the audience, but Timothy McVeigh was in the military. He went to Desert Storm or Gulf War, whatever, I forget, I always mix up the names, but one of those ones over in Iraq. He got out, went to go join Special Forces. The official story is that he failed. And he got sent. He ended up then becoming disillusioned with the military. Ended up getting out not too much longer after that. According to him, and in this letter, the real story is that no, they pulled him aside and said, "Hey, we need to be Mr. Super Secret Agent Man. We need you to be sheep dipped. We need you to, on paper, quit the military and kind of create this legend as a disaffected veteran and." You're going to go around the country, kind of make a name for yourself, kind of hobnob with all these major figures in the, the right wing. And that's what you're going to do. And then lo and behold, he ends up doing that. So it's a weird thing to lie about, especially since that ends up being the story of your life. This is a guy who was kind of Forrest Gumping it with like... all of the major right-wing figures of that time. Like, he really was. If you read Aberration in the Heartland of the Real, and which really does focus a lot on that period between him getting out of the military and him, obviously the bombing, it is like, this dude was on some shit. Dude was on one. So, like, this dude was working, I believe, for Caltech. When he got out, he was in the Guard, which is notable if you're concerned about sheep dipped, because that would be, logistically speaking, that's great for sheep dipping. It also makes it so now you are in a different legal status to where you are able to do domestic operations because you are in the Guard as opposed to active duty. You are a subsidiary of your state government now as opposed to the federal government. So it puts you in a different status to where you can do domesticated things. This no longer is an issue where we run into like old laws were like, no, we can't be having the military operating domestically, like those sort of laws. So, yeah.
Well, and didn't it seem like when McVeigh was in prison, didn't it seem like he was just kind of waiting, like to be taken care of? Like he was so relaxed.
Yeah, with David Paul Hammer, that's one thing I was talking about. He did seem to claim to him and others that, no, I'm going to be good. They're going to get me out of here. So this is where a lot of the people who claim that, like, no, he didn't really die and he's actually Paul Weissapal that's in some other FBI district somewhere, which they do look quite a bit alike. This is where you get those theories from because he seemed to think that. Now, I will admit, I think that Timothy McVeigh thinks or thought he wasn't going to die, but I'm of the opinion he probably died. I mean, I wouldn't be, like, astounded if they like pulled some crazy Houdini glowy stuff, but I kind of am a little doubtful. I think they're just like, yo, this guy is a liability. Let's get rid of him.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but on the other hand, it's like I don't know what the reason for keeping him alive would be. Like, it would just be easier to just get rid of him. And because then that whole loose end is tied up, and then you don't have to worry about it from there. So it just seems likely that it's easier for them to take care of him. I don't see why they would want to keep him alive or throw him into witness protection. But maybe this goes like even way deeper than we know, and he was like super, like way more important. I don't know. I don't think so. So I'm kind of with you on that, but who knows? But on that, let's wrap this up and let everyone know where they can find you. What you have coming up, what you want people to go check out, whatever you want to shout out.
I have the No Way Jose podcast. I'm on YouTube, all the major odd podcatchers, Rumble as well. Like I said, I kind of run 3 shows. I mean, it's all falls under No Way Jose. Our branding's a little bit confusing, I know, but I kind of run 3 shows. I guess one's kind of the normal No Way Jose, the solo stuff. But then I do the other 2 shows, which is Already Dead, which is my weekly show on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. There's a call-in show. And then I also do a daily show Monday through Friday, like kind of a normal daily show. Take the weekends off, all that. But usually we do those around 10 a.m. Eastern. Kind of just talk about current events, some old stuff too. So it's just kind of a hangout. We kind of like a research environment, hangout environment as well. Kind of a combination of the two. So it's a fun time, good place to hang out, good place to chill. If you guys have stuff that research stuff you want me to dig into, share it there and we'll go over it together. But yeah, we have a lot of fun over there. You can follow me on Twitter at TowerGangJose. I hope to see some of you guys over there soon. We do have a good time, and I don't know, it's gonna be a fun year. I'm looking forward to where things go. So I appreciate you having me on, Jacob. And I don't think I really have anything else in the form of plugging. I don't have anything crazy going on. I'm getting ready to do a pretty big appearance soon, but in the way of actual guests or anything, I think, as I mentioned, the Trentadue one, I think I'm gonna get them scheduled sometime soon, but I don't have a date yet. So any sort of big guests or anything like that. I don't know. We have some more of your stuff that should be dropping public here soon. Some more of those False Memory Syndrome Foundation episodes. I have a few of those behind the paywall too for any of those who, any of the non-poors in the audience over here.
Awesome. But yeah, thanks for coming on, dude. I definitely want to get you back. I would like to get you and Austin at some point to come on and talk about Gladio and stuff. I think that really is like one of these points that kind of just keeps coming up. It's one of the junctions in the spider web. So, but definitely go check everything out. I've made sure to put links in the episode description for.
By the way, real quick, sorry, I didn't mean to throw up your shit. It was CalSpan, not Caltech. I fucked up. My bad. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
No worries. So make sure and go check out Jose down in the episode description. And as far as Rise to Liberty, you can go also in the episode description, risetoliberty.com/links. That pulls up my master link. It shows all the platforms. I have now started doing shows every Tuesday and Thursday. They will be continuous shows. Tuesdays are more of a planned show. Thursdays are more of a lax. This is what I found kind of on the internet, but it's all kind of in the same realm of stuff. It will tend to be scheduled right after the morning dump because I actually like watching the morning dump and I don't want to stream until after that. So it's a good way for us to not conflict or whatever. And other than that, make sure and go hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the share, leave a comment, all of these things. It helps the show out more than you could possibly imagine. The big tech overlords have made sure that we will not grow. So this is entirely dependent upon all of you guys to be able to help us get these shows out there, to get the followers and everything. And hey, it's free. So if you found this valuable at all, go ahead, like I said, hit the like, subscribe, leave a comment, thumbs up, follow, all of these different things. And the more people that end up doing that, the better content I can ultimately end up bringing people in the future and in the near future. So other than that, there's no more updates as far as I know, except for the next stream will actually be Sunday, not Tuesday. So that's just going to be a chill Monday morning coffee with Rise to Liberty. So come hang out, chill out, check that out. Other than that, let's see here. I think I got everything closed up on my end. Now, the one last thing I wanted to ask you, Jose, real quick was, what is the one thing out of everything, out of all the theories and everything, what do you think the most important aspect of Oklahoma City has been or is?
The most important aspect of Oklahoma City. I don't think I can really give a what's the most important.
Or what's something that like people should like take away from?
Take away. I think it's kind of a thought I had recently, especially where it's like our age. I think a lot of people have these tendencies to like, and I get this a lot. They go, "Oh, this happened in 1995," blah 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 blah, and you're like, "That's within my lifetime." Like, this is a major world-changing event. This is like shaped our future. Like, this is something that like formed the reality we live in. Like, this is a major event. So like, and this is kind of, I don't know, there's something to that, being aware of this, and like, I don't know, it's almost like we're kind of working backwards and deprogramming ourselves of the nonsense out there. So I think it's something worthwhile. It's almost like you're getting to the root of the programming and like kind of seeing the zeros and ones behind the matrix kind of deal. So I think it's worthwhile for people to kind of dig into it, especially, you know, if you have anything in common with us. I mean, I don't know, we're in our like 30s, so in that rough age span, I don't know, this is a thing that's really affected your life a lot. This was a precursor to like all the 9/11 stuff we saw, Patriot Act. I mean, this is just general, the, you know, strategy of tension that led stuff that led up to 9/11. I don't know, I just think these are also, as I mentioned Merrick Garland earlier, so it's like, I mean, you see, who's the other one? There's another former attorney general who plays a part in this. This is more on the Trentadue side of things. He was helping with the cover-up. I can't think. He was the Fast and Furious guy. I can't think of his name right now. The black dude. Whatever. But anyways, so there, you know, we see these people that these swamp creatures that kind of got their start, kind of made their bones, and I just think it's kind of one of those ones they act like, oh, this means nothing. This was so long ago. But you think that the characters involved, and it's like, really, a lot of those same people are still around, and if not them, they're like direct proteges. And likely things are the same exact protocols and practices are in place in most things. So this is also a really good like Rosetta Stone for understanding how things are done, because this was the 90s. It's not that long ago. It takes a while for these guys to change their mannerisms. So, yeah, I know. I also think it's one that I think they, I don't know, I feel like they were a little bit particularly sloppy in certain interesting ways. I've brought this up a few times that I think there was some sort of interesting crossroads of like where technology was and then also where it wasn't at that time, that made it so that like it kind of had a blind spot for the feds, so where they were kind of sloppy. It was kind of like they didn't anticipate, like the tech was there to document things, but the tech wasn't there to collate and network things quite like we have the ability to now. So right. The ability to document and track that stuff there, but now we're at the time where now we're able to collectivize this information and organize it in meaningful ways. So whereas we didn't have that back then, but we had the means to hold on to the information. And I don't think they were thinking about the future and like, oh, we need to be extra careful, not be as sloppy. So there was a lot of stupid stuff that they were able to get away with back in the days of like Kennedy and stuff like that. Cause it's kind of like, you know, I know there was a lot less things tracking your every little move. So I don't know. I just think I just find it a really interesting story that it doesn't really get enough shine and has a lot of explanatory power for the spooky world we live in.
Hell yeah. I think that's a perfect note to end on. Once again, Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure to hit the like, subscribe, share, comment on your way out. Check out Jose's stuff. Jose, hang out in the back for just a sec as we wrap this up. Everyone else, until next time, stay free, my friends.